Family Quest. My name is HistoryWes. This is episode 57, and today I am working on completing phase 1 of my megabase. This pit will be the last part of phase 1, and as soon as I reach bedrock, I'll be done. At the moment, I am about at level 49, so I need about 10 more meters, and then that'll be it. So today I've decided that as I work, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to, in fact, read you a story that I've written. One of the inspirations for this story is the Minecraft game, and you might be able to tell that from the story. Anyway, it's multi-parts, so I'll be telling it a segment at a time, and we'll start right now. And the title of the story is The Destroyer Returns. Part 1. Who are you? She was beautiful, with long golden hair flowing past her shoulders and down her back, though strands of it were tightly wound into braids that were tied up by her ears. Her dress was simple but pretty, fastening around her neck, leaving her white shoulders bare. It ended just above her knees, and she had no shoes on. Her feet were stained with chlorophyll from the grass, and her shins had tiny scratches on them. She had a crooked stick in her hand, which she used to urge 3 sheep along. She stopped and stared at him. Completely ignoring the sheep, which wandered a few feet and then stopped to munch on a patch of wildflowers, she looked at him in wonder. "Who are you?" she asked. Her large eyes were almost the same blue as the sky. He just stared back. "What is your name?" she asked. I don't know." "I'll call you Wrath," she smiled. "My name is Mistybrook." Wrath, though that was not yet his name, had suddenly found himself standing in the middle of nowhere. He had clutched at his chest and gasped in pain, but then he realized that there wasn't any pain. There was only the memory of the pain, though of what had caused that pain there was no memory. He didn't remember who he was, or what he was, or where he had come from. For all he knew, he had been standing right there where he was a few minutes earlier, or he could have been standing there forever. Or he could have been dropped out of the sky. For all he knew, he had just been birthed into the world, whole, grown, and clothed. All he knew for sure was that something in the past, the recent past or the distant past, had hurt him, and hurt him badly. He dropped his hand to his side and looked around. He was standing on a green hillside. Around him was a sea of tall grass, dotted here and there by trees. Far away on the horizon there were hills, and hanging above them the rising sun. East, he realized. Turning south there were more hills, but even farther away. To the west was a small lake, and beyond that a forest. He looked to the north. There were trees here too, though not as many as on the far side of the lake. There were open areas between the trees, and there was smoke rising up into the sky. Letting his eyes follow the wispy trails downward, he could just make out the roofs of buildings. Simple sloped roofs of simple wooden structures with stone chimneys. He started walking that way. "I'll call you Wrath," she smiled. "My name is Mistybrook." He had been no more than a stone's throw from the building when he had almost run into her. He was immediately enchanted by her alabaster skin and her golden hair, and her very large blue eyes, and her sylph-like figure. She was tall, but very, very slender, with willowy arms and legs. "I've never seen anyone dressed like you before," said Mistybrook. He looked down at himself for the first time. He saw heavy leather boots and a thick red canvas pants, and above them a soft white linen shirt and a black leather jacket. He noticed that one of the jacket pockets bulged out, and sticking his hand in it, he pulled out the contents. "Glasses," said Mistybrook. "Goggles," he said automatically. "What are goggles?" He shrugged and then put them back in his pocket. "Come with me," she said, taking his left hand and turning toward the village. The sheep were left where they were, and he could see that there were sheep wandering here and there among the buildings. It was a small village, scarcely a dozen homes, a single tavern, and a church. Mistybrook pulled him along like a child pulls a balloon, leading him past the tavern and several houses until she came to a small house with a faded blue door. "Come inside." She opened the door and stepped in, tugging him along with her. "This is my house." Nice," said Wrath, looking around. It was a single room. A small cot was against the back wall, surrounded by stacks of blankets. A rickety table and two slightly sturdier chairs sat in front of a cold fireplace. Mr. Brooks steered Wrath in that direction and pushed him down into the first of the two chairs. Without letting go of his hand, she slipped into the chair across from him. "You're a hero, aren't you?" I don't remember anything." There was a knock at the door and it opened. A mountain of a man with a huge red beard entered, carrying a small cast-iron pot in his hand. "So, Misty Brook, you found someone new," he said in a deep rumbling voice. "Marigold sent over some stew." He set the pot in the middle of the table, forcing the girl to pull her hand away from the newcomers. "I'm Burl," he said. "I'm sort of the boss man around here. Welcome to Fenwood." "His name is Wrath," said Misty Brook. "You don't look like a traitor." I don't know." "He doesn't remember," she said in a loud whisper. "I think he hit his head." "Don't see a wound," said Burl. "Why don't you run over and see Marigold Girl? She just baked some bread. You can have some for you and your guest." "All right." She jumped up and flitted out the door. "No, you're no traitor," said the big man. "I don't reckon the Traitors Guild is still around." He stared at Wrath for a long moment. "You sit a while with Misty Brook. When night falls, you come over to my house." He pointed to his right. "East. You can spend the night with me and mine. Wouldn't be right staying overnight with her." He turned and started for the door, passing the girl as she returned with a round loaf of bread. Once she had closed the door behind him, she went to a shelf and retrieved 2 wooden bowls and a wooden ladle. At the table she filled each bowl with 2 scoops of the rich brown stew and then tore the bread in half. Wrath watched her as she took the bread and used it to scoop up some of the stew, drawing it to her perfectly formed mouth. He copied her and was rewarded by the taste of a hearty meat, soft potatoes, and carrots. He realized that he had been hungry and tucked in. After a few minutes, he saw that Misty Brook had abandoned her meal to watch him eat. "Do you like it?" He nodded. "You must be a hero." He shrugged. "I think you're a hero. I think you're here to save us from the Destroyer." So that's part 1 of The Destroyer Returns. Drop me a comment in the section down below and let me know if you liked it. We will have part 2 in the next video. And also in part 2, I'll be starting on phase 2 of the base, which actually involves filling this big hole up only with levels that are going to be full of important stuff for my base. It'll be like 15 stories inside the level, and then there will be large and important rooms above, just under the surface of the mountain meadow above us. And then finally phase 3 will be building on top of the land. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting. I also expect it to take me a long time. I started phase 1 on November 30th. It is December 26th, so it's taken me almost exactly a month to do phase 1. I suspect that phase 2 will take between 3 and 5 months. This is a very long-term project, and I'm looking forward to working on it for a long time. Well, that's it for today. Thanks for joining me here on the Family Quest server, and thanks for listening to part 1 of The Destroyer Returns. Next time, as I said, more building and more Destroyer Returns. Be sure and press that like button if you enjoyed this episode and the story. And as always, keep on Minecrafting.